Hi there, welcome back to the Real Film Chronicles podcast. As always, I'm Nathan.
And I'm Brian.
And in this week's very special episode, we're going to be discussing a little film called Speed Racer.
It is special because we're going back in time a little bit to the precious year of 2008. The Wachowskis release upon us a visual smorgasbord of insanity. An assault on all your senses in the movie Speed Racer. Incredible. I believe Speed Racer was kind of like, I don't know, I was doing a little reading. I think it was stuck in what they call development hell for a little bit. Joel Silver was the main producer and eventually got the Wachowskis involved. And I think beginning in the early 90s all the way to the mid 2000s before they actually were able to get everything going and then unleashed the movie in cinemas with a budget of $120 million. The film would go on to gross $94 million, becoming a bit of a box office flop, getting pretty mixed reviews upon release, but also finding a little bit of a cult following. To the point now, in 2026, a couple weeks ago, they release a newly remastered 4K Ultra HD movie release of Speed Racer that blows everyone away. Fantastic. Now, have you seen Speed Racer before?
No, this was the first time, like you said, the 4K just came out. There's been such a critical kind of reappraisal of this, right? Like for so long, first came out, critics, audiences seem to hate this thing. Like I said, like it lost money at the box office, lost huge money. And then over the years, word of mouth and people like were watching it and rewatching it. All of a sudden it's like, it almost seems like the opinion has shifted where like, it seems like the majority seem to love this. So as soon as it came out, had to pick this up. Also just because of like the, fill out the Wachowski collection, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
So, yeah, the first time I watched this was in this year of our Lord, 2026.
Incredible. So you were like right fresh on this. What an experience.
I am late to the party on Speed Racer for sure. Yeah.
Now, are you late to the party on Speed Racer in general? Because this is based off a 1960s anime, Japanese anime. I think it was just literally called Speed Racer.
It was, yes.
1967, I think through 68, I read they released 52 episodes. There was a whole manga released alongside that as well. I believe they revisited with another television series, maybe in the late 90s or early 2000s. Like, were you exposed to any of that stuff before?
Yeah, so I remember at Walmart when we were in North Bay still, they released a set in 4 volumes.
Yeah.
I think the original series. So I have 3 of the 4 volumes right now sitting on my shelf. So I have watched, I didn't watch it religiously, but I have watched a bunch of Speed Racer episodes. So I do have some frame of reference. And it's funny, like those are the ones where you'll see that they'll make fun of it in like Robot Chicken, where the dubs, in order to get all the information the same, they have to talk really fast.
Yeah.
That's where all that kind of stuff comes. There's a lot of kind of cliches, not in a bad way, but a lot of all those kind of old school anime cliches of like the speed lines and the specific kind of visual style. You watch something like Speed Racer, and that's where that's one of those shows where all those cliches kind of were born from, right? So watching the original show, it's like it's an interesting kind of transition, right? Because it's clearly what we would call like a Saturday morning cartoon for kids, and they took this years afterwards when like I don't think it was super popular by any means in 2008 when it came out, right? It's got, like any fandom, it's got its niche kind of fandom, but it's not like, at least in the West anyway, in Canada, US, kind of like, it wasn't like people were like talking about Speed Racer all the time, right? It wasn't like we oh yeah, we grew up with Speed Race, in the same way that I think, I don't know, I can speak for you, but like growing up with like the 60s Spider-Man cartoon, right? Even though I was born decades later, there's certain shows from the 60s, like the Spider-Man's cartoons, like, yeah, I did grow up with that. And so like watching Sam Raimi have some references to that. in his movies was kind of cool. Where like Speed Racer, there was no kind of nostalgia factor for me. When I did watch this show, it was as a young 20-something, so it didn't have that kind of same impact. So like when it came out, even though obviously a huge fan of The Matrix, I'm a huge fan of The Matrix sequels as well. It wasn't like an urgent, like I have to go see this movie. It was like, oh, this wild, bubblegum pop version of a cartoon show I watched a handful of episodes of and it seemed kind of cool. It was like, I didn't feel the urgency at the time where like, I have to see this in theaters. And then even more, and I'm guilty of this, right? Like being influenced by public opinion, all the reviews came back negative. I was like, well, I'm not going to spend my hard-earned cash on this. There's a bunch of other movies I need to see in 2008. So just kind of, I wasn't intentionally like boycotting it or anything. It was just one of those movies I just hadn't gone around to see, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point about like, obviously the original series would have been shown in America and in Canada on different networks, but we didn't really grow up with it. And I think I've probably seen bits of episodes here and there, maybe while I was channel surfing on a Saturday morning. And I would say like for myself, I was never into like anime TV series, definitely much more on the movie front. And I think I missed a lot of stuff, like including Pokemon back in the 90s, where it's like,
Yeah.
I saw Pokemon, I'm like, oh, there's another anime. I'm just kind of skipping over it. Not that maybe I just wasn't giving it their fair chance at the time.
I think Thundercats would qualify if you watched Thundercats growing up.
I never did.
You don't. Oh, okay. I know what I can get you for your birthday. I'm gonna get you the full Thundercats on Blu-ray. It's an amazing show. You gotta watch this.
Like 80s for me. You mentioned the Spider-Man cartoon. I was like, yeah, I was watching that thing as much as possible. But like, I was big into like the Hanna-Barbera stuff, Flintstones and whatnot.
Of course, yeah.
And of course, all the 80s stuff like Transformers, all the ones that were kind of like really there as like merchandise vehicles, Transformers, Voltron, all that
like
sort of thing.
Transformers and Ninja Turtles, when those movies came out, I had a nostalgic connection. I'm going to go see a Ninja Turtles movie no matter what, because I grew up with that. Speed Racer, I didn't grow up with it, right? I watched a handful of episodes or a bunch of episodes, more than a handful. I was trying to get through the full series at one point, but it wasn't like, but it wasn't one of those things where it's like, it didn't have the same impact, right?
And I think with Speed Racer, even though it didn't have like we're talking like 50 some odd episodes, maybe a second series at some point.
Yeah.
It still broke through like the popular culture, like zeitgeist, where you were very aware of Speed Racer. It's like that iconic Speed Racer, go Speed Racer, go jingle. I think that's like, you still knew what it was, even without watching it. You would recognize the car, like the Mach 5 or whichever Mach version it was at the time. It's like, it was just everywhere, even though you may never watch the show. It was just like it permeated pop culture still, which is pretty astounding considering like how old the property was and how it sort of continues on to this day, really.
It is the Mach 5. I just got up. People can't see me, but in one of the Speed Racer box sets, there was like a little Hot Wheels car of the Mach 5 in here. Back when they did some cool packaging back in the day. But yeah, and the classic pose when he gets out of the car.
Yeah, which is, he definitely recognized that. It's fantastic. And I think you mentioned before, it's like, I guess it was a bit of a foundational anime in how it was animated and filmed. Like you're talking about like the speed lines and everything that probably permeated to further sort of to influence other animes over the coming decades. Cause like we're talking 1960s here. This thing feels like a whole other, I mean, that's ancient. Yeah. Even when we were kids, that was ancient,
Well, it definitely felt like looking back now, for example, Robot Chicken, which, heavily, is a huge pop culture pastiche, all the different references. Looking back now, there's a bunch of Speed Racer references in there, right? So among, it had its audience, right? And whether we realize it or not, some of that influence kind of came through in some of the media we watched. It wasn't until kind of later on, watching Speed Racer, it started to kind of click. And then watching this movie, starting to kind of connect those dots, right? Whereas like, yeah, it was, even though it wasn't big for me, its influence can still be felt, right? So in that way, it feels like it's almost kind of coming full circle. It feels like I'm, engaging, going on the rabbit hole, the television history here, learning some new stuff. So it's kind of cool.
Without a doubt. And obviously the studio and backers of this movie to get it made had faith that people knew Speed Racer and were going to show up to pour just over $100 million into the budget of this, where 2008, you're talking movies like Iron Man coming out and whatnot. And I don't think the mega
Dark
budgets
Knight.
were Dark Knight, forget about there's forget about it. Like, I don't think the $100+ million budget was that common at the time, where it would really take a lot of faith to get something like that made. And I think having the Wachowskis involved, who are just on such a massive streak of successes, and really, I mean, basically the Matrix trilogy.
For whatever people think about them now, like all those movies, even the sequels made a ton of money at the box office, even though, reception is mixed now, right? But they made a ton of money. They were super successful, right?
Yeah. So in 1996, they released Bound, which is definitely
very different.
A very different film. And sort of, I think that one was off my radar. I was too young to basically watch something like that at the time.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Revisiting now, you're like, yeah, they were, I mean, for a directorial debut feature film, like, wow, they hit the ground running there. And then The Matrix 99, 2003, the two Matrix sequels, and then 5 years later, jump into Speed Racer. But just continuing on, I'm just looking at Lana's filmography here. Cloud Atlas, and then Jupiter Ascending. I guess it was The Folly that I would still defend as a ambitious, like, pretty decent, fun movie, but just I think maybe the changing landscape at the time was too much for the world to handle Jupiter Ascending. And then TV series The Sense8, and then Matrix 4. But like going back to Speed Racer, like, I mean, they still, the critics were not kind to this one. I don't think audiences were really showing up.
No,
at that time either. But it's kind of difficult to gauge. 15. Are we 20 years later? 18 years later at this point? But
shut your
I'd
mouth.
watch, right? I'd watch Speed Racer not in theaters. Like you said, I wasn't big into the property or anything at the time. I watched it. I think I bought it on Blu-ray back in the day. I don't have it logged in Letterboxd, which means it's been over 10 years since I've seen this movie. So I was pretty excited that 4K was coming out. I drove over to the next town to pick up the Steelbook version of it. And based on like some of the initial reviews, like, you knew the movie was going to be colorful. It was going to be really like a thrill ride. And the 4K with massive bit rates and HDR and whatnot is like the perfect home for this movie. It just looks and sounds phenomenal. And here we are talking about it all this time later. We will get into spoilers for the film. If you haven't seen it by now, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go check it out and join us on this little discussion here. But Speed Racer, obviously, I mentioned, directed by the Wachowski sisters, Lana and Lilly, has quite a cast lineup. Emile Hirsch, starring Speed Racer himself, Christina Ricci, John Goodman, Susan Sarandon, Matthew Fox. What were, you're watching this for the first time just a few days ago. What did you walk away with? Like, what was your first thought? Maybe even halfway. I would say the movie starts, it throws you into the deep end, I think, with its visual style. Like, after 15 minutes, like, they have that introduction race there where he's doing, like, I think a time trial, and he's just about to beat, like, in video game terms, it's like the ghost car, which might be a little insensitive to this because it's literally his dead brother. But it's like, his brother Rex had set this time lap, and it's unbeatable after all these years, and he's about to beat it. It's just like, what'd you feel about this movie, like, right after that initial scene?
Yeah, I think I messaged you. It was like my first initial reaction was like, thank God I didn't like take any weed before this, because I think I would have died, because the movie itself is already such a trip. It would have been like huge overload, right? But it was, I think maybe one of the challenges was that coming off The Matrix, Speed Racer it's a kids movie, right? It's a movie aimed at kind of a wider audience than like it comes off R rating of The Matrix to like I don't even know what this would it be PG-13 or is it just straight up G?
It was PG when I looked at the
PG, okay. PG. So like it's still I think that might have been part of the challenge is like completely different expectations from the audience who came to see The Matrix. But like yeah, like immediately I realized like okay, they're going for a specific visual style. They're not going for realism at all. And kind of once you understand that, the first 15 minutes are almost like a primer on how to watch the rest of the movie, right? It's like it's explaining to you that this is going to be surrealistic. It's it's like I think the best example of like pure translation between cartoon and live action I've ever seen. Where just like it was a live action cartoon. It was colorful, bright. It was super kinetic. And it was also like emotionally engaging at that. Like when he puts the brakes on to not beat his dead brother's lap time. That idea of respecting the legacy. He still wins the race, but he's respecting the legacy of his brother, and he's conflicted with all this. And seeing like his, what happened with his brother leaving and the fallout between, with his dad and everything. I was like, oh, this is actually there's actually heart to this movie. It's a huge emotional core. It's not just a bunch of stuff, colors randomly thrown on screen. It's got clear art direction, clear cinematography, and this clear emotional core. And I was like, okay, like why did people hate this back in the day? I don't understand why it was initially so hated. It was very strange, but I was like, I was pulled in from the get go. Once like it establishes itself and you understand, you got to watch it with the right eyes, right?
Mm-hmm. I revisited the movie. I've probably watched it once. That intro scene there, like, just blew me away even more, and I was shocked at how emotionally involved it was.
Yeah,
like being semi-aware of the plot, and I'm just like, oh, I think I remember, Matthew Fox's Racer X, I think was
spoilers,
spoilers, yeah, was his brother. He's still alive, but he doesn't know that. His whole family doesn't know that. And in that first 15 minutes, like it's a literal roller coaster. Like the track is just a corkscrewing, like curvy
the tracks,
monstrosity. Like it's out of, you can't comprehend it if you think about it too much.
Yeah, they were like something out of like Mario Kart or F-Zero. It was like very like these tracks cannot exist in real life. And they're traveling at speeds of like, what do they say, like 800 kilometers an hour or something. Like it's completely fantasy, and you have to be in that mindset. But like, it was amazing. It was like watching. That's like a live action Mario Kart movie right there, or a live action F-Zero movie. It's like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely harkens to Mario Kart with like its upside down tracks and different like structures. But definitely back in that day, like I think we played a lot of F-Zero on the GameCube, and they had a lot of crazy twisty tracks. And this was exactly like that. And you really, even though it's just like assaulting all your senses, you're still able to comprehend the action. It's so well thought out and storyboarded. And the details of like, you're watching the tires of the car, not just like move left and right a little bit. Like these things are going fully sideways. It's a 4-wheel drive vehicle that can literally strafe down the track. Like these are highly dynamic vehicles, and it's just like they communicate all this to you immediately. And then to intersperse it with the different like time, like there's obviously the time on the track, like during the race, but we keep going back in time to when Speed is he's a kid, and all he can think about is racing. He's just completely obsessed with it. But you get a bit of his family life, you get all that background, and then it's just all the emotional stuff. They show his brother dying in that gnarly mountain track with like the skull entrance. And you're just like, of course, if someone's going to die, it's going to be at that spot. It's just really brutal. And it came around full circle. It's like, if that was just the film, like that was a 15-minute short film, it'd be one of the best of the year, I think. Like it's just phenomenal. Then the movie goes on for another 2 hours. And I was kind of shocked at how long this movie is. Like, I don't remember it being so long. It's just like, wow, how are they going to maintain that pace? But we get quite a bit of plot. We get a bunch of story. We get all our characters going in, and it was pretty good. I mean, especially considering, like you said, it's essentially a kid's film. There's a lot of stuff for us adults, especially today.
Yeah.
20 years later, where we could digest and chew on there. The opposite.
Maybe I should say, I should have said maybe family film as opposed to kids film. Although not really, because like even like people look at like Star Wars is really a kids film, but I still love it, right? It's like but maybe family film is the better word, because yeah, there's quite a bit in Speed Racer. There's quite a bit of plot points about corporate espionage and like backroom dealings and stock market manipulation. As a kid, would fly over your head, but it was interesting watching the movie, and like, I guess spoiler alerts, but it's like a massive kind of, I guess, anti-capitalist message at its core, right? I mean, very like blatantly autobiographical for the Wachowskis, where it was talking about like multiple times, and it stood out to me where they were different characters were talking about what Speed was doing on the racetrack as art, his driving as art, artistic expression, and wanting to stay independent and wanting to do it for, at a certain point, like Rex, Racer X tells Speed near the end of the movie, it's like, it's not about changing racing, it's about how racing changes you, and that speech at the end. And like to see, like, of course, the Wachowskis, who they're at their core, whatever you think of their work, they're artists. They have a specific vision, or they think of themselves as artists, right? And they have the specific visions that they want to realize on the screen, and specific stories they want to tell. And I think, looking at the themes in Matrix Resurrections as well, where it's like, again, kind of anti-capitalist kind of message, or you feel that tension of like, oh yeah, how do you make something personal and artistic in a big studio system? Where I think Speed Racer at one point he's in the car with Trixie, and she's like winning isn't everything, but he's like, but if I want to keep doing it, I do have to win at some point to be able to stay in the game. And that's like, you can almost hear the Wachowskis, their own voice coming through. It's like, yeah, we want to tell these personal stories, but in order to do that, you do have to play in the studio system to make money, to make sure that your next project is viable. So it was, yeah, like I didn't realize going in it would be like that level of depth to the themes of like this anti-capitalist message, or this message about like what it means to make art within a larger kind of capitalistic world, where it's like, you got to pay your bills and you got to eat at some point in order to be able to make more art, and kind of, what is the balance there? But yeah, like I was super surprised. And then like all the talk about manipulating the races, that was a huge thing too. It was like, yeah, like the essentially, like at one point, Royalton, the guy who owns a big conglomerate, who tries to get Speed to join his team, and when Speed finally says no, and he breaks down and does his villain monologue, one of the best villain monologues I've ever seen. Like, he comes and all the themes of like anti-capitalism are apparent in his speech, where he is the capitalist, like he is the stand-in for like capitalism, and he's like, every race you've watched, like for the Grand Prix since 1953, has been rigged by me and by a bunch of other people who own all the big companies. Everything you want, we decide ahead of time who's going to win, and that kind of completely, like, Speed doubts himself for the rest. That's a huge kind of crisis of faith for him for the rest of the movie. It was like, how do I fight back against these people who have so much power and so much control? And like, even in that speech, when he's telling him exactly what happened, you don't join me, not only are you not going to place in the next race, you're not even going to finish the next race. Like, you're just done, and it all comes true, right? And so it's like, yeah, like to have this kind of brazen rebuke of capitalism and, the corporate power in this bright, bubblegum pop, frenetic, 800 mile an hour racing. Like, it just like, yeah, the layers of depth that were there were just, yeah, it kind of, I was really surprised.
All things considering that it's basically like you said, it's a kid's film. Like, that's how you'd enter the movie. It's just like, well, this is going to be a popcorn film through and through, but no, this is the Wachowskis at work here, and they're doing really good stuff. Like, they know how to make this commentary and these themes stand through, while also just making the film, like, on the surface level, very engaging. And I'm guessing that, like, the anti-capitalism stuff maybe just didn't sit well with viewers or critics at the time. Like, not like 20 years later where that is becoming like a movement. It's like a lot of references to late stage capitalism. So we're going back to these movies that were criticizing that same system before. It's just like, oh yeah, Speed Racer was ahead of its time, not only like for the storytelling and themes there, but maybe just like everything. The visual storytelling too was just like out of control. People were not ready for this type of movie in 2008, especially when you compare, like, say, Dark Knight and Iron Man. We'll revisit those as like the protagonists are ultra wealthy white men who just get whatever they want, right? It's just like they create themselves as the heroes, and it's like, oh, capitalism worked out well. We're just giving money to the good guys here, and being super wealthy is awesome because you get to be Iron Man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, right immediately after watching the movie, I watched Patrick Willems' video. He had a video essay on Speed Racer, and he specifically points out that, in 2008, the two big movies that kind of blew this one out of the water, Iron Man and The Dark Knight, literally about two billionaires who come in and save the day. And now you look at, Speed Racer was like anti-corporate, and it's like, hey, maintaining integrity, maintaining personal integrity and artistic integrity in the face of capitalism and corporate greed. And at the time, is like, you can see how kind of things have shifted as the geopolitics shift, as economics shift, and people, I think are more ready to embrace that kind of messaging, or see their own reality, or see the value of that messaging now. When you see in the past, what did you say, 18 years? Oh, God. But yeah, like it look at all the stuff going on economically. It's like, there's probably a reason people are more like, they're more willing to hear the messages from Speed Racer, right? And Speed Racer is a movie that wears its heart on its sleeve. It's completely earnest, right? So I think we've seen that turn too, where there's kind of a postmodern bent toward cynicism. Right? When you start deconstructing tropes and you start deconstructing narratives, you tend to get kind of cynical, right? Where you have, now it's another trope of, like, Marvel, for example, the Marvel quips, where in the Marvel movies now you have a serious moment, but it can't last because they can't hold that moment because they have to have a quip or something. They can't. It feels too earnest, right? Or like making, like, movies making fun of their own premises, kind of thing, right? Where it like feels that they're not confident, or they feel like it's too silly. Whereas like Speed Racer is completely earnest. It doesn't feel like it is. It's silly. It's absolutely, like, the cars are bonkers, right? The cars are doing things that cars cannot do unless you're Dom Toretto. The Fast and the Furious.
You're the Fast and Furious. Yeah.
But like, it's completely bonkers nonsense. But it works because they embrace it fully. They embrace the cheesiness. They embrace the earnestness of it, and that's where you can have these, like, in this wild live action cartoon, you have these moments between father and son, and reconciliation, and accepting your family's legacy, and moving past that. And it's all completely 100% earnest, and that's where it feels like, oh yeah, I'm being drawn in, and I can connect with this movie in a way that I'm maybe not connecting with some of the later Marvel movies. I'm not gonna say I hate Marvel movies, because I have them on my shelf. I'm watching them all the time, so I'm not a complete hater here. But I think there's a shift in tone, right, from that kind of cynical, can't hold a serious moment because we can't deal with we have to be cynical about this, and we can't have earnestness, to being like, to looking at something like Speed Racer in 2008 is like completely 100% earnest, wears its heart in its sleeve. And I think I'm appreciating those kind of movies more and more, what people would call cheesy, or what kids today might call cringe, right? But to me, that's more valuable than the cynicism these days. I think I'm cynical enough. I need the idealism and the heartfelt emotional stuff to balance things out, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like I think it was a good description, where they don't have the confidence to stick with the emotional beats, the moments that require actual, like, emotional engagement. They refuse to stick with it. They'll offer that quip, or they'll deflate the situation because they don't have the confidence in it. And then you watch something like Speed Racer, and the Wachowskis have full confidence in everything they're doing. And you imagine like making this film and like delivering this vision of how difficult that would be to do this and not be undermined by like the studio to change things. But they had the power after the Matrix trilogy, probably full creative control, right? But they may not enjoy after Speed Racer. I'm guessing Cloud Atlas was not like the box office success that it needed to be either. But you see it on screen of just like, these are two really talented artists making points. They're making art on screen, and they're fully confident in their message, and they're uncompromising in their delivery. And it just goes so far above and beyond what the MCU stuff is. Just such a great example of like, it's just, it goes beyond all that stuff. And we sort of get used to that as an audience. So it's like when we're presented with that, and I think maybe that was kind of it, like at the beginning of this movie where I'm like, damn, but I'm not sure if I'm in an emotional state right now because of the movie or because like other stuff going on in life. But like, I could actually engage with this and like feel something that you would never feel in the first 15 minutes of any Marvel movie. Like it's just pure jokes all the time. And I did, I don't know if you watched some of the special features on the disc. I think there's a new interview with Lana and Lilly where they do talk about exactly what you're mentioning here, where it's like they're creating art within a corporate structure that you're kind of fighting against all the time. And for them, there were some analogies to filmmaking specifically. And in the final race, they come down to like this big straightaway. And the track is lined, I think in this one, like zebra pictures, where the camera is now going parallel. And you see these zebra like images, they're still images. But when the camera is moving fast enough to follow the cars, now the zebra is galloping like the horse galloping. And they're like, that is just like a direct reference to that is how movie animation is made, by moving the camera or like moving the images quickly, still images quickly enough. And it's just like, they were fully aware of all this stuff, and to get everybody on board with that too. It was just like, I don't know. Because when you start watching the behind the scenes, the whole movie's filmed on green screen, right? Yeah. And it is so difficult to try and visualize that. And that's what makes these two so amazing, is like be able to visualize this, film it, make it happen. And it was just like, it's really a marvel of filmmaking that I don't want to say you don't get anymore, because every year there are tremendous movies coming out, but something like this that's so ambitious and so stylized, like studios are not letting people make such visually arresting films like this anymore. Like it's just amazing.
Yeah. And I'm going to admit, this is not everybody's cup of tea, right? So I'm not saying that everybody has to like the Speed Racer aesthetic, but it's something, they, like the Wachowskis, they were like, okay, we're going to take, what does it actually look like to translate a cartoon into live action, commit to that vision, and like see that through to the end, with undoubtedly as they put together like dailies, quote unquote, because I use quote unquote because like digital dailies, I don't know how that would work, but as they're putting, like, they must have had like early cuts of the film where they're starting to put in the special effects. They must have gotten immense studio pressure back to like, what the hell are you doing with our money?
Yeah. Well, it was interesting talking about the special effects and watching some of the behind the scenes stuff. So this is what I think was their first movie filmed entirely on digital cameras.
Right.
And what they did was they created basically 360-degree still images of the environments they'd be in, say the mountains, where they were racing in the mountains, right? They would take those images and sort of, that's going to be your backdrop. And they're adding all the CGI, all this stuff, but you're having these actors on the green screen. And because they're filming digitally, I think it wasn't quite like in Avatar now, where it's just like he could look through the camera and see like pre-rendered stuff like happening, so you get an idea of what it looks like. I think they film something and they send it over to the computer, and you have one guy who's able to like assemble it like in its very infant like CGI phases and sort of get an idea of what the angles are and everything. It was just really you did have a like on-set visual guide and being able to film like that sort of opened them up to probably making little corrections here and there. as they go along, instead of like waiting for 12 months or whatever it is for the CGI artist to complete their work, right? It's like you have an idea of what things look like. We need a corridor crew, full special on the Speed
Right.
Racer effects, right? One of the other things that really stood out to me, they were talking about compositing, and speaking of corridor crew, like they'll throw out, it's like, oh, the CGI here is good, but the compositing is bad, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, the compositing is what makes things like integrated and believable. But here you have this hyper realistic, like so stylized that they didn't need to worry about things looking weird when they composited stuff in. So they kept using that one, the like sort of the big fight scene in the mountains where they're not they're taking a break from the race and like fighting each other. It's like everything was filmed separately on green screen and they could just composite stuff in. And the final product, you have layers and layers of people and they're all individually placed in. But because the movie looks this way, they don't need to worry that the compositing might look bad. It's supposed to look like a cartoon, and like the way the camera moves, like they even said, like they're trying to emulate some of the camera moves of like the background would speed by and like repeat. And I think they tried to do that a little bit, like at the beginning of the movie there, where he's driving down the street and it's like you see the background houses going. It's like you might see the same house go a couple times as a direct reference, like this is how animation was made and we're going to make it look like that. And we, as an audience, like you just sort of accept it. It's just like, this is the style and we're going to roll with it. And if you don't like it, then it's going to be really tough to watch the rest of the movie. But it's like that first 15 minutes, if you can handle that, the rest of the movie, no problem. You just enjoy the feast.
Yeah, no, it is. And I get it. It's not for everybody. You're either in or you're out. You either buy it or you don't. You either kind of accept that this is kind of, I think the word you use is hyper real or surreal. But I think it's the earnestness that sells it all, right? Where, the scene with Royalton and Speed, and he's talking about like him sitting with his dad and bonding over watching this race and everything, or him and his brother bonding over racing, and him really idolizing his brother completely. That to me anchors the film, right? And then you have the scene later on where Speed is thinking, oh, Racer X was his brother, Rex Racer, because they're like, oh, Rex Racer, he appeared a couple of years after my brother supposedly died, and then there's a big reveal. It's like, oh yeah, it's not his brother. It's like him's like, no, I'm not your brother, but like, I'm sure he would have been proud of you, and I'm excited to see what you're gonna do. And then later on, it's a double reveal where it is his brother, and he did fake his own death and had facial reconstruction surgery.
I must admit, I don't understand. Well, I kind of understand that part. They reveal it at the end. He was his brother, but I think for Speed to go along his journey, it's like his brother did not want to like get in the way, right? It's just like if he knew he was still alive, it's just like, oh, Rex should be in my place, but allowed him to become the racer and the man he is today because he's aspiring to be like his brother and because he can continue on his own journey.
Exactly. And I think that story beat at the end where it's not revealed to the family. Like Rex doesn't go and tell him, like, hey, I'm still alive. He goes off and he's like, no, I made this choice and I kind of have to live with this. It's like, and the detector there, he was like, you're not going to tell your family, like, are you worried about like the pain that you caused your family? It's like, I made my choice. I have to live with it. I feel like modern blockbusters, they would have had a scene where Rex reveals himself to the family and they find out he's alive. And it's like, for the Wachowskis to resist that urge and be like, no, there are consequences to these actions and these characters have their own motivations. And we're not just going to go for, it's a happy ending, but it's not the perfect, super happy ending for everybody. I thought it was like, okay, in modern blockbusters, I think the urge would have been more to, have that reveal and have the family know that Rex is still alive. But this one like ended off and they didn't know. I was like, this, so it's kind of this bittersweet ending where like Speed is able to move past his brother's legacy in that final race where he's like literally and figuratively firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And he like pulls out all the stops and just shows like why he is the best of the best now, right? He has his Luke Skywalker moment of figuring out the engine, goes for it, and is like all that burden of the legacy, both good and bad, because like there was controversy surrounding his brother, right? There were like allegations that he was involved in like cheating or something, or that he was like, or that he was like, what was he doing? He was, playing dirty on the racetrack or something. before he faked his death there. Presumably faking his death, I think, to go undercover to stop all the corruption. I think was the whole point of where he's working with the inspector and the police.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. That's why he's like the anonymous Racer X, and he's going around in his spare time, like saving that dude from the piranha truck there, which was a great action sequence too.
all of those amazing scenes were like the fight scene, and what was the big race called? It was like they
just called the Grand Prix, I thought.
No, the Grand Prix was the main like legitimate race, but the race that Speed and Racer X and
that one, it was
the unlicensed, like almost like roller ball kind of, where like anything goes, where like we're not just racing, we're gonna try and fight dirty. It was like a cross country race. I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, that was really interesting to have like a league that influences like your admittance into the main professional league where there are a lot of rules. You have to play in the races that have no rules, and like everyone has weapons and stuff on their cars. It's just
the one that was shooting beehives.
Yeah.
Or shooting snakes.
Not the bees.
not the bees. Nick Cage pops up.
I mean, also, but like just the insane violence in the sanctioned league, like the main Grand Prix, where it's like you're basically taking drivers out, like you're trying to spin your car. It's very F-Zero-esque, just from our background of playing that game so much. It's like you're in midair. If you could spin your car in midair and knock someone out, that's fantastic. Like the crowd goes wild, and there's nothing wrong with that. But use an actual weapon, no, that is strictly off limits. But you could run people around, no problem.
Yeah. The spear hook was a big controversy that essentially when it was revealed in the last race, it's like, oh, Royalton's done because it was proved that he was like just straight up cheating. Because like there's some devices that seem not to be cheating, like all the cars, including the Mach 5, seem to have like the little feet that come down that will let you jump. So all the cars seem to be able to jump.
Yeah, you can jump and do that stuff. Yeah,
that kind of stuff. But as soon as you have like, you know, like the spear hook was like literally like this device that came out from your car, hooked onto the car underneath it beside you, and it wouldn't let them go, so you could like essentially move them where you wanted them. That's no in the Grand Prix, but I looked it up. Okay, it's the Casa Cristo is the race of the that's the cross country race where like anything goes, you know, all bets are off kind of thing. But yeah, it was really interesting to see like the rules of the game within the universe, right? So
I'm glad you mentioned the Luke Skywalker moment as well, because that one was like pretty surreal when you're watching it again, and it's just I totally forgot about it. Where they build the new Mach 6, or like they rebuild or whatever, and his dad has put in like extra juice into it. But his dad and family are just in like the normal grandstands, like with everybody else. Mm-hmm. He has a mechanic like on the ground, and he's in radio contact with that guy only. And so when they're like, oh, such and such device is like offline, you got to like reboot this thing. It's like, how do you do that? He's like, I don't know how to do that. And they cut to the grandstand. And I think that it was like Mom Racer there is saying it's like, oh, he has to do this.
This Pops Racer was going through. It's like essentially he's to like put it into fifth gear. He's like going through like, this is broken. This is flooded. Specific. Yeah.
And then Mom is like, does he know how to do that? He's like, no. Does the mechanic know how to do that? It's like, no, I'm the only one who knows to do that. I'm like, why is Pops not the mechanic down on the ground with him? It's just like, but then it just creates that moment for like, he's hovering over, he tells the mechanic, he's like, all right, stop talking. I have to feel the car now. And it's like, that's where the car's elevated into like another being. This is the forced moment where it's like they're communicating with each other. Because like there's no other way to drive these cars at the speeds they do without being one. And that's him joining with the car and like elevating into the next level of being a racer, going through all the steps, getting it booted up, again going from last place to first place, just demolishing everyone. It was so fantastic.
Yeah, it was full circle too, because at the beginning, in that 15-minute intro to the family and everything, his brother specifically told him, was like, you gotta feel the car. The car is a living thing. Which again is like, there's definitely a Star Wars influence here. I think like you can't not have a Star Wars influence here. But then at the end, it's like you gotta close your eyes and then feel it, right? Not think things through, but like feel the connection to the car, and he figures it out. Yeah, no, one of those stand up and cheer moments, right? And it was like as simple as the whole thing was ridiculous. Like the engines they were putting those things, I can't remember what they called the specific engine, but it was some kind of looked like some glowing magical like piece of hardware, right? It was like some kind of futuristic thing. They're going through it. The whole thing on its own. If you describe the scene to anybody, if you describe any single scene in this movie, they would lock you away. People would look at you like you had a stroke, like you're babbling nonsense, right? Like you're racing up the mountain, and then you stop to have a fight. A monkey throws poop in a guy's face, and then they fly away in a helicopter. Like the whole thing is just any single scene you try to describe it. It sounds ridiculous, but it works. It all comes together. A singular vision. There's emotional core, narrative core. You see the clear character arcs for like a lot of the main characters. Like the kid and the monkey are just there as like the sidekicks, which is true to which is funny because it was true to the anime as well, where like they'd be going on an adventure on a race or something, and all of a sudden like they pop out of the trunk. They're like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah, they're literally in like the most dangerous race, the whatever you called it there, with all the weaponry.
Casa Cristo.
And they stop the car, they're fighting, and then they pop out of the trunk, and you're like, those guys were in the trunk the whole time. Like, hopefully they were belted in, because like these cars are going, like they're moving so much, right? It's just like, and they're just loose in the trunk, and they're in there the whole time. Oh my god, but it's one of those moments where you're fully into it. It was really good.
Mean, the movie's got, you got attacks by ninjas, you got corporate espionage, you got high speed racing, you got fight scenes. I mean, it kind of got it all.
And you have a live chimpanzee throughout the movie,
which must have been one of the last times they've used like a live animal like that, right? Because like they would, especially like all I could think of watching that was I was thinking about Nope the whole time.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just like, I to the point
that kid's definitely getting mauled, right?
Well, it was to the point I had to look up. It was in the IMDb trivia, and I'm not sure how accurate this is. Like, full disclaimer. Apparently, it was played by two chimps. One of them did bite the actor, like the child actor. The trainer, I think, like stepped in. I don't know if he yelled at it or like hit it impulsively. But the Humane Society there, like whatever organization oversees like animal cruelty and whatnot in films, like stepped in and like denounced the entire movie because of this incident behind the scenes. Apparently there were a real piranha in the tank at some point, and a few of them died too. So they basically denounced the movie as just like, no, this one featured animal cruelty to some degree. And you're watching it and you're thinking of Nope, and you're thinking, I don't remember last time they cast like a real monkey or chimpanzee in a film. Like, it just, it's seeing it here, especially every scene he's with that child, like that child actor. Like, it would just be a full CG animal at this point, and it's probably better for it, honestly. It's just like, we don't need.
Yeah, it doesn't. That doesn't look as good, but it's more ethical for sure, right? Like the days of Bart the Bear are long gone now, and yeah, for good reason, right? Honestly, obviously, ethical concerns with the animal, ethical concerns with all the actors involved. But that struck me. It struck me watching. Is like it was one of the last days of using real live animals like that, especially like our simian cousins, right? So it stood out for sure.
Absolutely bonkers movie. I think I saw the visual style referred to as intentional, artificial, and cartoonish, like all accurate.
Yeah.
It's almost sounds derogatory in some ways when you start talking about the movie, but I mean, it's just, to me, it's a visual feast. It was really amazing. Watch some of the behind the scenes stuff of how they did it. It's really fascinating. And should we get into our ratings, unless you have anything else to add to the discussion?
No, I think we're good to go.
All right. So we do like to guess ratings around the internet. We try and guess Letterboxd, IMDb, and Rotten Tomatoes, both critic and audience ratings, before we get into our own. I did play along before doing any research on the movie. I did guess as soon as the credits rolled. So we'll start off with Rotten Tomatoes. Now, going to such an old movie, it was like, I'm not sure Rotten Tomatoes or any of these platforms will reflect the new like reassessment of the movie. You know what I mean? It's like if I should have gone back and like, what was that, like Wayback Machine to see some of the original reviews or whatnot, but I don't have all that time. You know, we just got to do with what we got. So what do you think the Rotten Tomato critic rating is on Speed Racer?
Critic rating, I'm going to guess 46%.
46. I guessed 45%.
Okay.
And it is at a 42%. I think we're both pretty accurate there.
Yeah, it was not well liked by critics.
And the Rotten Tomato audience rating.
I'm going to go a bit high. I'm going to say like 54%.
Okay. I went in the opposite direction thinking probably, I thought my logic was critics could probably see some of the messaging,
some stuff
in the movie where I think audiences probably struggled with the visuals and whatnot more. So I put the audience at a 38%, and the actual is 60%.
Okay.
Now that one, I'm like, well, that has
that. I wonder if it's been like in the years since.
Yeah,
it must have accumulated some better scores, I think. But my thinking was something like this. I think critics might be too much in their own head, whereas an audience might just look at it kind of for what it is, as opposed to critics trying to critically kind of analyze it, right?
IMDb uses the 10-point system. What do you think the IMDb user average is?
This is tough. I'm still going to, I don't think it's super high still. I think I'm going to go with 5.5.
I put 6.8.
Okay.
And the actual rating is 6.1 that time of recording.
Okay.
Not bad.
So just about halfway in between.
Yeah. And finally, Letterboxd, our platform of choice where you can find all of our ratings and reviews. What do you think its users' average of Speed Racer is?
I'm going to guess on the low end and say 2.8.
2.8. I guessed 3.2.
Okay.
And the actual right now is 3.6.
Okay, a lot higher than that's good.
A lot higher than I thought. I'm glad thought I was already accommodating for like revisiting the sort of the cult thing, but I think the cult stuff is a lot stronger on Letterboxd than it is some of these other sites.
Yes.
So the big reveal. What is your rating? And a reminder, we use the Letterboxd system, 5 stars with a possible like bonus on top. What is your rating of this film?
Yeah, first watch going in cold, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars.
Nice.
I really enjoy this movie. This is one like I never thought I'd hear myself say like I'm gonna revisit this movie again. Like I'm looking forward to the next time I watch this movie. Like you said, all the visuals. We didn't even get into the acting, right? But like all the acting was on point, and like I love that. Again, it took itself super seriously. Or like not super seriously, but like it took itself earnestly, right? It believed in the situations it was in. Like Matthew Fox as Racer X, super serious, but it worked, right? All the actors like John Goodman in there, Susan Sarandon. Like you think like in a movie like this, and they're acting against a green screen against some of the most ridiculous scenarios you could ever imagine, and they're giving it 100%. But everything about this movie works. It might go up over time. But I don't know if I would agree with Patrick Willems that it's the most important movie of the 21st century so far. But I will say, like, I was pleasantly surprised after all the kind of back and forth, and you know, got a bunch of negativity in one camp and a bunch of people who are like super positive. I'm like, surely it's got to be somewhere in between those two. But I think the critical reevaluation, I'm going to say they have it more correct, right? I think this was slept on at the time, and it's one of the ones where like history has vindicated the Wachowskis, I think.
Without a doubt, yeah.
What's your rating on this one? You're a veteran. You've seen this one multiple times, so
I think I've seen it once before.
Okay,
I want to say once. I am giving this a 4.5 with a heart bonus.
Whoa,
yeah,
that's up there.
Yeah, I mean, it could have easily been 4 or 4.5. It was definitely, again, the heart bonus because I had a lot of fun with it this time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I enjoyed it way back in the day. I can't tell, but I will say this, and I might have to add this in afterwards. I just remember that I actually wrote a review of this movie on one of the old sites. It's not sitting on the Chronicles, the Real Film Chronicles site right now, but I will add it in later. On May 2nd, 2011, I published a short review of this movie.
Interesting.
I did not give it a star rating at the time, but it looks like I was somewhat favorable to the film.
All right. So you were on the right side of history.
I did mention in that review, because I was such a fan of Christina Ricci, ever since I was a kid. I think I did call her out in one specific paragraph as being delightful in this movie, if you want to talk about the acting and whatnot.
That's Trixie. Well, that's what I thought when you suggested we would do an episode about this, and then I see Christina Ricci pop up, and I'm like, is this just an excuse for Brian to talk about Christina Ricci for an hour? He was one of your favorite.
We could do a
favorite
Christina
actors,
Ricci retrospective at some point.
I'm really surprised you haven't suggested that already. Maybe for our 200th episode, all Ricci all the time.
All right, here's quite. I think this is almost a hot take now. This is proof that we can change as people. All right, I'm just reading from this review I wrote many 15 years ago, or whatever. The acting is non-existent, but that's not to say it was terrible. There's some big names in here: John Goodman, Matthew Fox, Susan Sarandon, to name a few. Obviously, I wasn't familiar with Emile Hirsch or whatnot, and I just finished talking about Christina Ricci. So, what really gets me is Speed's little brother and the injection of juvenile humor into the movie. Obviously, this was a movie for kids, but there were elements that were just so asinine it bothered me.
So some critical reappraisal here, Brian.
It's definitely some reappraisal, yeah, for sure. I'm kind of glad I didn't give star ratings back
No words to eat. Then that's good. No stars to eat.
I might have to delete this review from the internet. Who knows? Incredible. Anything else you want to add on here for our discussion of 2008 Speed Racer?
I think what we've already covered, where I think both of us either discovered it or rediscovered it. Really love this movie. I think both of us would highly recommend it, especially with that new 4K release. If you can track down a copy, I know in Canada at Walmart they had a bunch of copies, really decent price too. So do yourself a favor, fan of unique visions on film, fan of the Wachowskis. Do yourself a favor, check this one out, and I think this one has inspired me to go and check out the last couple movies that there. I haven't seen Bound yet, and I haven't seen Jupiter Ascending, so I know I can't.
Your homework after this episode.
Yeah, so that's it inspired me to go out. It's like I gotta rewatch Cloud Atlas, which again I picked up the Shout Factory edition recently. I gotta track down a copy of Jupiter Ascending now and Bound, and check these out. So, but yeah, definitely highly recommend.
As always, we appreciate you hanging out with us today and taking the time to listen to our podcast. You can find us online over at realfilmchronicles.com, where we have not just a repository of podcast episodes, but many of our written reviews as well. If you're up to it, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram as well. All the links should be within the show notes here. So until next time, take care of yourself and others, and be sure to enjoy your film journey.